Okay, so today's lesson is 7.5, misleading graphs. There are three things that we're going to have you kind of memorize. The first one is that y-axis should start at 0. Think about your y-axis. If you don't know what the y-axis is on your chart, it is always on the left-hand column. Okay. Your second thing that you should memorize is icons should be the same size and same amount. The word icon means pictures. So if you don't know what icon means, it means pictures. So the pictures should be the same size and the same amount. When we're talking about same amount, it should be like every single one of those pictures should be 5s. Okay? And it should be the same size. And the third one is appropriate intervals. Bigger intervals make the data points appear further apart. So you have to look at it. If all the numbers are in the 80s, you're not going to count by 10s because then all the lines will be really close together. You might want to count by 2s to make sure that it's appropriate intervals. So these are your three reasonings that you want to memorize for misleading graphs. So here's your first example. Says which graph could be misleading and why. So we're going to call this graph A, and this is graph B. Look at this. Okay, we had talked about what intervals were last time. So here's 60 and 70 and 70 and 80. What interval are they counting by? So the interval here is 10. They're counting by 10s. But here, look at here, 0 and 60. Is it counting by 10s? No. So anytime you see a zigzag line, that means the numbers are missing. So graph A could be misleading. It gives the impression of greater temperature change because and here we're going to change this because the y-axis, the intervals are not the same. And it's missing number. Okay, so here it's missing numbers and the intervals are not the same because you have 0 to 60, so it means that they should be counting by 60, not by 10. Looking here, let's see if the intervals are the same. 0 and 25, 25 and 50. Yes, they're counting by 25, so the intervals are the same. Let's look at example 2. It says explain how you could redraw each graph so it would not be misleading. Draw the entire y-axis scale on the graph. So looking at here, see that zigzag? So that zigzag tells you that the y-axis, the intervals, are not the same. Numbers are missing. Okay, so here to redraw it, you have to look at this. We're not going to do all of it. So you start with 0. Okay, so look at here. 6.9 and 7.1. What are they counting by? Well, if you do 6.9, 7.1, they're really counting by 0.2. See, 7.1 to 7.3, you increased it by 0.2. So here, if you had to redraw this graph, you would start with 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and it's going to continue on until you get to 7.5. Okay, let's look at the next slide. Make the icons for cars, light trucks, and heavy trucks blank size. So let's look at this. Here's cars. Each one of these cars is equal to 9 million cars. Each one of these trucks is considered 9 million trucks. One van is considered 9 million heavy trucks or van. So in your misleading graph, the first paper, it's the second one. It says icons should be the same size and the same amount. Well, they're the same amount right here. They're all equal to they're all equal to 9 million, but it's not the same size. So the cars, this car should be the same size as this truck, and this truck should be the same size as this truck right here, or the minivan, I would call it, or van. So here, make the icons of cars, light trucks, and heavy trucks the same size. Okay. So every single one of these should be the same size. So either the van and the truck should be as small as the car, or the car and the truck should be the same size as the van. They all should be the same size. Okay, so now let's have you try number 1 on your own, and then when you're done, you can go ahead and push play. It says, which graph could be misleading and why? Well, you should have chose graph B is misleading because the y-axis does not start at 0. Okay, and here looking at this is your number 1 on the first paper we gave you. First, y-axis should start at 0. So right here, see, it starts at 5 instead of 0. Explain 2. Go ahead and try number 2 on your own, and when you're ready, push play. It says, explain how you could redraw the graph so it would not be misleading. Well, look at this. Does it start at 0? It does not. So, say I would start the y-axis with 0 and make the interval 8, because you got to tell me what you're counting by once you get to 0.